gospel. The gospel reading is Luke chapter 6, beginning with the 17th verse. And he came down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, who came to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all the crowd sought to touch him, for power came forth from him and healed them all. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you that weep now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, and when they exclude you and revile you, and cast out your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, for so their fathers did to the prophets. But woe to you that are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you that are full now, for you shall hunger. Woe to you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for so their fathers did to the false prophets. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. I have a clergy friend in town. We text one another every Sunday morning, I guess, to offer some encouragement, support, prayer. He was first this morning, and he sent me a message that said, "Have a blessed all-star Sunday." I didn't know that was a thing. It's All-Star Sunday. It's the sixth Sunday after Epiphany. It's the Sunday that we read Jesus' sermon on the plain from Luke. Somebody the other day said, don't expect so many people, President's Day Sunday. I don't think that's a thing either. Presidents, presidents have they have their monuments, they have their libraries, they have their homes. I've visited quite a number of those. You probably have as well. Jesus, what should we say? Jesus has his monuments, and the places like where we are. Like we're in a monument to Jesus, great works of art, monuments to Jesus. Jesus has his library, not a grand presidential library, but you can carry it around. You got it in your home. We just read from it, the scriptures. That's Jesus' library. And then Jesus' home, we could say that Jesus' home, he's born in Bethlehem or he was raised in Nazareth, but let's take our cue from John's gospel. John said that in Jesus, God made his home with us. God's home is in heaven, but God said, I want my home to be with them. I want to be with my people. It's so touching when Jesus in Luke here, he preached all over the place. In Matthew's gospel, you have the Sermon on the Mount. This is very similar, but it's Jesus' sermon on the plain. He traveled all over the place, and he varied what he said, different places to tailor it to his audience. And what's so touching in this case is that it says that people came from Tyre, and they came from all over the place, made arduous journeys to get there. And why did they come? They came, as it said, because they were troubled. They needed healing. They just wanted to touch Jesus. Like, I love that. You can imagine them in the crowd pressing through. I just want to shake his hand. I just want to touch him. We heard about a woman who just wanted to brush his garment, seeking healing. Jesus began his sermon, and I couldn't get past the first verse of it this week. I got stuck there. I'll tell you why in a moment. Jesus begins this sermon by saying, Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the poor. Sometimes we think of the poor, we pity the poor, we blame the poor, we hope I'm never poor one day. But Jesus says, blessed are the poor. We're confused about the word blessed, too. We have these, I tried to listen this week for times I would hear the word bless or blessed. Several times this week I heard this thing, I don't know if it's Southern, but people will say, oh, bless her heart. Like, what is that? Like, never say of James Howell, oh, bless his heart. it's not a kindness, is it? It's kind of like, poor soul, bless his heart. So we do that, like that's not so good. And then we get confused about blessings. This got fed years back. A guy named Bruce Wilkinson wrote a book called The Prayer of Jabez, and he made it kind of materialistic. He said, God has blessings for you, and the reason you don't have them is you just haven't come to get them. He said, God's got a warehouse full of blessings for you. Just back up your station wagon and put your blessings in and take them home. The reason you don't have them is that you haven't brought your station wagon to pick up the blessings. And it's just so crass and it's so materialistic. Jesus doesn't come to the poor there by the Sea of Galilee and say, hey, I'm going to make you rich, I'm going to make you prosperous. Just back up your wagon and I'll give you the blessing. Now, Jesus said, blessed are the poor. And when Jesus said blessed, what he meant is to me, you are beautiful. The world may treat you like garbage, but I hold you in very high regard. My love forever enfolds you. My love forever embraces me. You nobodies. People say you're nobody, but to me, you are my precious child. You are my brother. You are my sister. It's interesting, isn't it? The other thing I got stuck on is Jesus said, blessed are the poor, and I looked up the original language, and it's interesting, the word that's translated poor, it means poor, but it can also mean humiliated. Jesus says, blessed are the humiliated. And I try to think, who are the humiliated people? There's some that are obvious. Somebody comes to my office, they go, my husband cheated on me, my wife cheated on me. There's a feeling of humiliation attached to that. Or you're at work one day and your boss fires you, and you can think the boss is a dang fool and is totally wrong and you did great, but there's a humiliation that's kind of attached to that. I think of a family member who's battling old age and values independence and being able to drive, and he's lost his car and his mobility, and he feels humiliated in that. But as I thought about it for the sermon, I thought, who are the humiliated people? And I decided it's all of us. All of us in this room are the humiliated people that Jesus would bless. Let me try to explain that. The word humiliated is interesting. It comes from a Latin root that it's related to dirt, right? You can say if you're humiliated, you're treated like dirt. But the way that works is interesting because when God created humanity back in Genesis 2, what does God do? God takes some dirt, some dust, and God breathes into that dirt the breath of life. It's really what you are if you think about it, right? You're just some stuff. I mean, there you are. You're some stuff, but God has breathed God's breath into you, and that's why you're alive. It's why you're out and about today, is that God has given you the gift of life. And I think being humiliated is when we forget about the breath of God in us. Being humiliated is when we just think about the dirt and we don't think about being blessed by Jesus. I'll give you some examples. I had an email from someone the other day lamenting the demise of our culture and society, and he was upset about what we could call the politics of identity. And as I read his email, I realized I'm with you on this thing. There's a big emphasis on politics of identity, and so what happens, right, is that we just think about the dirt, the stuff that we are. So, like, are you black or are you white? Are you gay or are you straight? I mean, all these categories, and we get upset, and we have political ideology around it, it's politics of identity, but what we forget in each one of those cases is there's some white stuff. Does that define me? No. Somebody else is black, brown, whatever. Does that define me? And it's huge, but at the end of the day, what you're defined by is that God has breathed into your dirt the breath of life. You are someone that Jesus has blessed. If you want to feel humiliated, just go function in the world for a while, but pay attention to it. And the humiliation is this. You were treated in our society, above all else, as a consumer. And you don't mind it. You may think I'm good at being a consumer. I bought a lot of good stuff. I had a nice bottle of wine last night and a very fine dinner, and I'm actually pretty good at consuming. But what consuming does to you, though, is that it humiliates you in a way, doesn't it? says, like, you're nothing but a shopper. You're only defined by what you get and what you forget, is that there's this black hole in you, and you can never pour enough stuff in there to make it feel full, because it's a black hole. You can't buy enough, you can't accumulate enough, you can't eat enough, you can't drink enough. You can't have the most titillating experiences imaginable to ever fill that black hole. It always has a hankering for more. Mick Jagger sang it, I can't get no satisfaction. Being consumers, we fall prey to this humiliation, which goes like this. I read a book years ago by a psychiatrist named Barry Schwartz, and he talks about, they've done studies of this, how increased choice increases your anxiety and depression. Increased choice increases your anxiety and depression. I experienced this the other night. Lisa and I were home after dinner. We were both there, nothing to do, and we got the brilliant idea of, hey, let's watch a movie. Now, the Howells, we are well equipped to watch a movie. We have Netflix and Amazon Prime. And we have a whole bunch of cable channels. And we thought this would be no problem. And so we started looking. So I went through Netflix, like hundreds of things. No. We went to Amazon Prime. We're going through, no, I don't know. It's got to be good. Like, got a free evening. Then we looked through what was on the TV, and I'm getting very stressed by this exercise. We're supposed to be having an enjoyable evening at home, but I'm like, oh, the movie's gone. I hope she likes it. I don't know. And I had this thought, I envied my great-grandparents because they were not afflicted with a television set. And when they were home at night, I think they just kind of hung around. I envied them. Lisa sends me to the grocery store. Something simple like, get stuffing mix. I think, oh, that sounds easy. Stuffing mix. Oh, no. There are 40 kinds of stuffing mix. And I'm stressed. Like, which one does she want? I don't want to mess up. I have to come back. Increased choice increases your anxiety because we think it's all about getting just the right thing. And if we just get the right thing, if we just get the right things, then we will be content and happy. But it's a fool's errand, and you're being humiliated because Jesus says, you don't need that stuff. It's not going to satisfy you. Jesus says, I have blessed you, and as it turns out, that would be enough. If you want to be humiliated, here's something. Think about what other people who think differently from you about politics think about you. I didn't say that sentence very well. Let me try that again. If you want to be humiliated, think about what people who differ from you politically think about you. Because as it turns out, they may be polite to you, but in their heads, they're not just thinking, there's someone who thinks differently, there's someone of a different party, there's someone who votes differently. Oh no, they are thinking you are a stupid fool, and you are a menace to society. They are humiliating you, and you're probably returning the favor by humiliating them. And it's interesting because of why we think what we think about these issues. My son a couple weeks ago called and said, there's this book that you have to read. It's really well done. It's by all these psychologists and psychiatrists that have done these studies of people, and they're asking, why you vote the way you do and why you have the political ideology that you do. And it's kind of humbling to read the book. The book's called Prius or Pickup. And as it turns out, they can ask you 5 or 6 simple questions. And after you answer those 5 or 6 simple questions, they can predict with an over 90% accuracy whom you voted for in the last election. Isn't that interesting? And the questions they don't ask, who did you vote for in the last election? That's not. They ask questions like, would you rather eat meatloaf or Indian? If you're going to buy a car, would you rather have a Prius or a pickup? With your children, if you are a parent, do you want them to be well-behaved or considerate? And all these you're wanting to say both. I like meatloaf, but you got to pick one, right? You want your children to be considerate or well-behaved. And you answer these 5 questions, and they know who you voted for. Isn't that interesting? There's even more that's scarier. If they test your gag reflex, we're not going to go into too much detail on this morning. If they test your gag reflex, they can, with an 85% degree of certainty, know who you voted for in the last election. Boom. Your sensitivity to light. If I come up to you and suddenly shine a flashlight in your face, you go, oh! The degree of your reaction to that, if they measure that, with an 85% degree of accuracy, they know who you voted for in the last election. Isn't that interesting? But we're thinking, oh, it's because I'm so smart. Oh, it's because I've been reading the Bible. Oh, it's because we do this kind of thing. But actually, it's all this deep gut stuff, but then we're humiliating the other person, and we're being humiliated by the other person. And Jesus says, I know what's in you. I know who you are. What defines you is not your political ideology, however you happen to come by it. What defines you is that in my eyes, you are blessed. You exist because I breathed my life into your dirt. That is who you are. The Me Too movement. Some people say, oh, it's a political thing or whatever. I think everybody should be humiliated by the fact that we have to live through this in human history, right? That women are treated like objects, and that men is just the same. Men are just men. That's what men are like. We should, every one of us, be humiliated that this has come to be a thing. Because we're not defined by the curve of our body or our yearnings or any of that. We're defined that Jesus has blessed us. God's breathed into us the breath of life. This other thing that happens, you feel humiliated. I don't know how this works. I've told some of you this before. When I was a kid, I know the date. The date was February the 29th, 1968. You may wonder, how do you know that date? I know the date because our school had a Sadie Hawkins dance, and that was Sadie Hawkins Day. And when I was growing up, the deal was when you usually had school dances, boys asked girls to dance. But at the Sadie Hawkins dance on February the 28th of 1968, girls were supposed to ask the boys to dance. I don't know why I went. I wish I had not gone. Because I sat there, no girl pitied me enough to ask me to dance. I'm still scarred by it. I'll never get over it. But that feeling, like unwanted, left out, humiliated. This actually happens in odd ways, and they've studied what's the Facebook effect now. Facebook, it has its values, right? Like, I know what my cousin had for dinner last night. It's like super helpful to know. What happens with Facebook, though, as best I can tell, I don't look at it much, but when I do, as best I can tell, everybody who puts anything on Facebook, they are deliriously happy. Their marriages are perfect. They're having a blast at all times. And they only see beautiful scenes. And if that's not your life, you see that and you think, everybody else is just, it's so great. And I missed that. I had a bad day. I got a hard marriage. I hadn't had that much fun this past week. Left out. Jesus said, blessed are the poor, and he meant it. Not just the humiliated, but like the poor. Speaking of President's Day, when John Kennedy was running for president, I think he was in Boston. I need to look it up and be sure. He's on the campaign trail, and he makes a speech, and he's doing, like Q&A with the audience. And some guy says, Mr. Kennedy, he says, do you know what it's like to wonder where your next paycheck is coming from, to wonder whether you're going to be able to feed your family, to worry about whether you're going to make the mortgage or not? And Kennedy said, oh, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that's like. And the guy said, well, let me tell you, you hadn't missed a thing. Except I wonder. Maybe you miss a thing. And here's why. Jesus said, blessed are the poor. We're not sure they're blessed, but from my observation, very often the poor, oddly, are blessed, and maybe we've missed the blessing. And here's what it looks like. I've traveled a lot in mission for the church. And we go, for instance, to Haiti. Go to Bayonne, Haiti. Haiti's the poorest country in the world, and Bayonne is the poorest place and the poorest country in the world. And when you go there on a Sunday morning, it's pretty interesting. They got nothing. Their attendance is 100% every Sunday. And they come before the sun comes up and start singing hymns, and they linger till way in the afternoon. And as best I can tell, they're so grateful for all the blessings that God has given them. Like, what is that? What is that? People I know in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, I love you guys. You're amazing. But if somebody asks me, who are the 4 or 5 holiest, most grateful, spiritual, biblical people you know in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, my mind goes to some people that you might pity because they are poor. Jesus said, blessed are the poor. Here's the thing. I'll be done talking too long. The word humiliation is just a razor's edge from the word humble. But being humiliated is the opposite of being humble, right? Humble is the most beautiful thing that you can be. Humiliation is the last thing that Jesus wants you to be. And here's the thing about being humble. If you are humble, you know that you are totally dependent on God and others. You're under no illusion that you're self-made. You're under no illusion that I've been really smart and I've worked really hard and, oh, look at the world that I have created for myself. If you're humble, you know it's all a gift. It's all a gift. If you're humble, here's something. If you're humble, you can listen. If you're not humble, you don't listen very much because you already know everything, right? But the humble can listen. As best I can tell, the humble can pray. It's hard to pray if you're not humble. What Frederick Buechner said, so many of us live our life like a clenched fist. The clenched fist does a lot of things, like it holds on to things, it works, it fights, it's great. But the one thing the clenched fist can't do is accept a helping hand. When we're humble, we know our need from God. If you're humble, I think this holds. If you're humble, you just have no need to pass judgment on anybody else ever. If you're judging other people, if you're humiliating them in your mind, you're not humble in that moment. Jesus came so we might be humble. Jesus came so we might be blessed. All of us. That's why Jesus said, blessed are the poor. That's why Jesus said, blessed are the humiliated. Because he knows we all are. He didn't want that for a nanosecond, because to him we're beautiful, we're wonderful, we have an eternal destiny. Knowing that, we have good cause, don't we, to be humble. Thanks be to God.